What's up, everybody? I am Mongoose, you are awesome, and this is episode 6 of Myths from Monolith. Today is a Revenant story from HGFD77. He has nothing to plug, but he does want to give a shout out to the guys he plays with, so shout outs to Jolly One, Roach Ballin, and Captain Kagron. Now, let's get into the story. The smell of cigar smoke was heavy in the tiny outpost in northern Omeda. Shouts and curses filled the air, and ever so often a glass was broken. A man in a worn suit and tie meandered his way through the bustling tavern and sat down at a table in the far corner. He straightened his stained suit for a moment and then looked at the man seated across from him. A low, wide-brimmed hat and red leather chaps adorned the dusty figure. The man in the suit leaned forward hesitantly. Are you Clyde? Clyde Holman?" A smile pulled across the lips of the man across the table. He pulled his hat down further over his eyes. He set his drink down and began to speak softly. "From the day I was born, I had a revolver in my hand. Others have told you that they're the fastest, the best, but I was built for this. Born for this. God gave me this gift, and I know that I am the best bounty hunter that has ever been and ever will be, so mister..." He paused for a moment and leaned forward, revealing his black eyes glistening from underneath his hat. "So mister, if you're looking for Clyde Holman, God's gift to revolvers, then I'm your man." Clyde leaned back again and his hat went back down over his brow. The man in the suit leaned forward, wringing his hands anxiously. "Clyde, I know that you're the best, but what I have in mind is, well, the other bounty hunters told me it was suicide. I assure you that you will be compensated fairly, and that I have the financial means to..." Clyde cut him off. "Who's the target?" "Well, Clyde, you see, I'm a banker, or I was. Then one day I came home and my wife was in bed with another man. Well, see, she had rigged the paperwork. She took my bank. My secretary had helped her do it. Then she spread rumors that I was the one that had been unfaithful, that I was the one that..." The man stopped briefly as he regained control of his emotions. "The whole town drove me out. I quickly emptied my accounts in the other banks before she could take those too." "How much?" Clyde interrupted. 30 grand, the banker muttered, looking around anxiously, worried about anyone overhearing such a large sum. "I'm in. Now do you want both the wife and the secretary dead?" Clyde said as he took another sip from his drink. I want the whole town dead. They mocked me. Made me look like a fool. My friends didn't believe me, called me a cheating rat. I want them dead. All of them. If you want to hire backup, you can." "I don't need any backup," Clyde interrupted again as he stood. The man in the suit handed him an envelope. That's half. You'll get the other half after the job's done. And one more thing. The town's called TRACY, and it's on Letha." Clyde tipped his hat and walked out of the saloon doors. He soon boarded transport for Letha, and bought all the bullets at every store he came to. It was dusk on the third day when he finally arrived at the small town called TRACY on the outskirts of Letha. TRACY was a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, born of the livestock industry and kept alive by the gambling industry. The buildings were old and all needed a new coat of paint. Clyde walked slowly down Main Street, his boots grinding softly in the dust. He stopped in the middle of the street. The town was quiet. The workday was over and most of the inhabitants had gone home. But then a shopkeeper, noticing Clyde, paused and shouted, "Can I help you, sir?" A shot rang out and the shopkeeper hit the floor. A woman screamed and Clyde fired again. Other townfolk ran to the windows to see what was going on. Clyde's bullets blasted through the panes, broken glass mixing with blood on the floor beneath. Clyde worked smoothly and efficiently, cutting down all that stood in his path. None were any match for Clyde. The revolver was a part of him, and he was a part of the revolver. Once he got through all of the men, he began to hunt the women, and then the children. They tried to flee, but they came to discover that all of the horses were dead as well. Soon silence once again blanketed TRACY. Clyde was impressed with himself. Then he thought, "I've been given this gift by God. I am unstoppable." Clyde, tired from his massacre, sat down in the middle of Main Street. He looked around in awe of his own work. "I want to remember this day, remember my power, remember that I am unstoppable." He took his knife from his belt and slowly began engraving one of his remaining bullets. Using the tip of his blade, he meticulously carved the town's name in harsh letters on the shell casing. Just as he was finished, he heard a noise. Clyde drew his gun instantly and 4 shots rang out. Clyde looked past the end of his barrel to see a figure seated in the dirt in front of him. He had a dark cloak that covered his head, and long, bony fingers protruded from his sleeves. "Who are you?" Clyde asked, realizing that his rounds had no effect. The figure was silent. "Are you deaf?" Clyde asked again. A deep voice from within the hood.
"I am not deaf, but I do clean up the souls that are left over."
Clyde laughed. "I've really given you quite a task now, haven't I?"
"Yes, you certainly have,"
the road figure growled.
"But I came to you because of something you said. You said that you were unstoppable. I could sense in your heart that you believed it."
"So are you going to try and stop me?" asked Clyde.
"No, I admire what you are, what you can do. But you have yet to realize your full potential. I am going to make you unstoppable."
Clyde's eyes widened as a dark, bony hand was outstretched from the figure. Clyde's body froze. He tried to pull the trigger on his gun. He tried to run, but his limbs wouldn't respond.
"Your first gift was from heaven,"
the road figure growled. Green magic swirled around Clyde.
"Your second gift will be from hell."
A dark power coursed through Clyde's veins. His hair flaked away and his skin turned black and shimmery like a pool of oil. Red fire burned in Clyde's blood and his eyes began to glow with the power of 1,000 souls.
"You shall be the one who came back, not from death, but through death,"
the dark figure moaned.
"You shall be the Revenant."
Now the Revenant stalks the night, relentlessly pursuing, always hungry. The Revenant always finds what he is looking for, and he always kills it. Some say the bullet that he still carries in his boot is engraved with the name of a long-lost lover, or perhaps his mother. But the souls of TRACY know the truth. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of Myths. If you did, light that like button on fire and watch that motherfucker burn. Click on that little mongoose at the bottom of your screen to subscribe, and check out the video description below to find out how to submit your own fan lore for the series. For now, this is Mongoose signing off. You guys have a good one.